Hi, in this video we're going to cover some more Pro Tools organization and cover how to deal with your submixes and a couple things to do. So first thing we're going to do is we have our submix here, and in the last video you saw we imported these files. We shored them up and imported them so they're all synced up. The first thing we actually need to have are we need to have a bunch of subfolders. Now in our actual project folder there, let's see. There's a hierarchy here of various things. We already have these things like video files and audio files and such like that. And our audio files should only contain the files we're working on, and not all. So it's nice and compact. It doesn't have the entire session, which was pretty big. So one of the few things that are missing are the presets files. Now, if you do any effects in Pro Tools, it's going to require that you put it in a certain folder. So if I, for example, look at this EQ, and I try to save one of my presets, if I tweak something, if I do something with one of the presets or something like that, and I make a nice, something nice that I want to keep, then I can save the preset. Oops, yeah, and I'll give it a name, EQ, whatever, EQ5. But if I just try to save it in my session folder, without any kind of thing, it's not going to let me. It says it only can be saved in the root settings. Now, the only problem with saving it in the kind of the root folder is that's on your own hard drive, and you won't be porting these presets with you. So as I've done in the past, I've worked on a thing and I've created these great settings and stuff like that, and then maybe many years come back to the session and realize that I try to import, say, a new version of Pro Tools or a new kind of with new EQs and stuff like that, and I can't get back any of the settings because I didn't save them. So what we're going to do, this is a bit roundabout, but the easiest way I've come up with anyways is to create that particular folder hierarchy is to save copy in, okay? And then just trash this project, okay? So we have our project right now. It's called Drum Submix. We're going to save a copy in, and we're going to check off the audio files because we want all those to come up. We want the session plugin settings, and we'll grab the root plugin settings too in case we use some of those or want to see them. We're going to grab the session fade folders and root fade folders just because, just to have them. And so we have those fade sessions if we need them. Now we'll hit OK, and then we'll just make sure we don't save it in the same folder. So we don't want actually to do that. Otherwise, it'll be folders within folders. So we'll just do copy of Drum Submix, go save. I'm just going to copy all my audio files over. But also, it's going to make these plugin settings folders, okay? So we're going to have plugin settings, and it's going to have all our plugin settings that we can save in this local folder. So now you can just, have everything you need to recreate this project all in the same folder, which is kind of handy. Okay, it takes maybe a little while because I got lots of presets, but now you have everything. You have all your audio files in there. You have all the other things you might need. Okay, so there you go. So just be careful now because we're still working in the old one, Drum Submix. So we don't want to continue working in this one. So we're going to close the session there, and we don't need to save it because we already saved a copy. I don't need this anymore. And we're going to go ahead and open the copy of Drum Submix. And you can name it something else if you want. And there, it's the exact same project as I've had there. But now I can save these presets. So let's go ahead and look at that real quick. If I did something there, if I put an insert in, well, let's start from the beginning. If I'm working, say, on my hi-hat, and I want to do some EQing on the hi-hat, I grab an EQ. And then I tweak some settings there, whatever, things like that, whatever. And then I say, okay, that's a great preset. I'm going to save it. Now I'm going to save settings as, but I'm going to go not into my root folder. See, this is just sitting on my hard drive and won't be in that project folder. So, if I change machines or if I try to open this project up on someone else's computer, these settings won't necessarily be there. So instead, I'm going to navigate to my folder here, copy of Drum Submix. And unfortunately, Pro Tools only lets you save it in a certain kind of folder hierarchy. Of course, you could create that folder hierarchy, but when you save copy in, it does it for you, and you just have everything because you might use multiple effects. So plugin settings, and then EQ 3.0, because that's the one I'm using, EQ 3.0. And then we'll just save it as, EQ1, something like that. Save. So now those settings are the EQ1, and it's in my project folder in plugin settings. EQ 3.0, EQ1 is right there. So now when I grab this folder and I take it with me to another machine, those settings are still there with me. And you can see them with the presets to load them. Oh, I'm sorry, over here to load them. This is your root folder right here. But if you go to session settings folder, then you have all the ones in your session settings, including EQ1. Okay. So just make sure you save your presets that way, and that way you always have them with you. All right. Okay. So that's about the presets. So now our submix, we'll do whatever mixing we need to do. Change whatever levels, listen to it, and make sure we use whatever mics we want to use and not mics, and do all our effects and these kind of things. But let me show you a couple things we can do. One is that you have your, let's say you have a couple mics that you want to process the same way. Say your floor tom and your tom, you're going to process the exact same way. You're just going to put the same kind of effects on them. So let's get rid of these for now. Those are just kind of fillers anyways. No insert, no insert. So let's pretend we want to kind of deal with these. We got our mix the way we wanted to. This is the kind of balance I like. I like the tom and the floor tom. I like the way they sound like this. Or for example, you want to deal with the space pair. These should be exactly the same then. These are presumably like an XY or RTF pair or something like that. So I'm going to want to process these the same. Instead of like just putting multiple effects on every one, I'm going to go ahead and bus these out. So let's see how to do that. So what we'll do is we'll send them to a bus. Since they're going to be the left and right, one's going to go to like the left, an odd bus, and one's going to go to an even bus. So we'll do sends, and we'll go to a bus. And let's just go ahead and go bus 1, 2. But this one will go to bus 1 because that's going to be on our left channel. Okay, so that's going to be left right there. And then we'll send this here to bus 2. And then we'll look, and this is the amount of send. You get your little send fader every time you click on that. You get a send fader right here. So it's bus 1. It's a space pair 01 left right there, sent to bus 1. So we'll go ahead and give it, unity. We'll give it up to 0. And that's the amount you're sending from this track. Now these you can choose if it's pre or post fader, but it's by default post fader. So that means if you change the fader here, it's going to also alter the sound of this as well. So let's go to the other one and let's do the same, but we do have to give the full volume there, and you can do submix there if you want, but we won't in this case. Okay, so now these are being bussed out. Now we want to make sure that they don't go out themselves. We're going to say no output on the IO on both tracks. So now they're not playing out, but they're only being sent to the bus. Okay, and so then we'll go ahead and get a new track, and instead of an audio track, we'll make a stereo aux input, and then we'll create that. So now aux, and we'll just rename that overheads, drum overheads, DROH, something like that. Okay, now we have to choose a source for this aux track. So its input now is going to be from bus 1 and 2, right? Because we sent that to 1 and sent that to 2. So now these are going to bus 1 and 2, and pan left, pan right. That's good. And then this is going out to our main stereo output. So now let's solo this one. Now you have to be careful with soloing because you have to solo everything, right? You need to also solo the bus track, okay? So now they're coming out here. And we'll go ahead and maybe put some effects on that, whatever we want to do. We can put EQ. We can put some compression. Whatever we want. We can do a bunch of effects and then save our effects, et cetera, et cetera. But now it's being applied to both these things, the sound of both these things. So we have a little submix going on right there within our submix. Okay. And then the other thing you can do is once you get kind of all the balances and everything like that, if you want to do some kind of global effects on everything in your submix, you can also create a master track. So that's going to be stereo as well. And we're just going to say a master fader and create that. And then your master fader there is going to have the sound from all the ones coming out PT stereo. Okay, and then you can do some whatever effects. You can do some bus effects, you know, some overall like bus compression or something like that. I forget which one's my bus compression. Yeah, mastering or something like that to do your submix. Okay. All right. So once your submix is done, once they're all properly EQ'd and stuff like that, you want to make sure you unsolo everything to make sure all the things, or you know, mute the ones you don't want to send, and then you're just going to bounce. So we're going to bounce that to disk, and we're going to call this drum submix whatever bounce. Okay. You can keep all these settings the same for now. We'll probably change this in our final mix. We'll just go ahead and bounce that down. All right, so now we have in our bounced files our drum submix bounce. All right, so you go ahead and repeat that for all your parts. You might do a vocals one. Even if it's just one track, you'll have a little submix. You'll apply some effects and you'll bounce it down to a stereo file. So then in your final mix, you're going to deal with stems. You're going to deal with these sort of submix stems that'll all be stereo files, and they'll all represent sort of one section, whatever it may be. And then you can mix those as well in a final section. So let's go ahead and do that. Right, so now I've created a session, a mastering session with all my submixes in there. And then you can go ahead and repeat that save copy in process. I won't do it again, but again, you know, check audio files, check those two, and then copy everything down. So you have all your presets and stuff like that, folder hierarchy in there. And then you go ahead and do your little mix and you do your process. Now for your mastering session, you're definitely going to want a master track. So we'll go ahead and make one of those. A master fader, stereo. But the idea is that, I mean, this is just a mock-up right now. I just imported a bunch of the drum things. But basically, you're going to want all stereo files in here. And you might do a few little, you might do some tweaks or something like that. You'll probably do a little, you'll definitely do some kind of mix. But you might do a couple tweaks. You might add some effects. Probably, maybe not, because presumably you already kind of did all that in the submix. And the main part here is you're just going to put all those on your master fader. You're going to do some, you know, final compression. I think that was my mastering compression. So mastering, oh, that's your mastering limiter. You know, that'll probably go last. Do some final compression, final, you know, all kinds of other things. So final kind of bus compression, and then some final EQ maybe. However you want to do a bunch of different things. And then you'll have your little mix, and you carefully mix that, and then you're going to bounce that down, and that'll be your final product. All right. So hopefully that helps a little bit in terms of like project organization. So just to recap, you went ahead and chose your takes, and then you sort of short up all your stems so they're all sort of synced up or like starting in the same place. And you made a bunch of submixes, and then you mixed your submixes down and then bounced them as audio files, and then imported all those submixes, the bounced files, down into this mastering session. And then you mastered it down or mixed it, you know, did a final mix, and then put some extra effects or whatever. So at each stage you have, you know, an option of doing some more sort of careful manipulating or changing or kind of adjusting things, and then you'll have your final product. So hopefully that was a little bit helpful.